Hello friends, how are you? Welcome you to GK Star channel. Subscribe the channel to get notification in short time. Now we are discussing about 85 general knowledge questions and answers for you. Which is the coldest location in the earth? East Antarctica. Which is the highest peak in India? Mount Everest. The second highest peak in India, Mount Keto. Which is the continent with the most number of countries? Africa. Which is the country with the most people? China. Which is the fastest animal on land? Cheetah. Which is the first biosphere reserve in India? Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Which is the first element on the periodic table of elements? Hydrogen. Which is the largest state of India? Rajasthan. Which is the hardest substance available on earth? Diamond. The national river of India? Ganga. Which is the hottest continent of earth? Africa. Which is the national fruit of India? Mango. Which is the national flower of India? Lotus. Which is the instrument used to measure blood pressure? Sphygmomanometer. Which is the largest democracy country in the world? India. Which animal is known as the sheep of the desert? Camel. Which is the largest animal in the world? Blue whale. Which is the largest bone in the human body? Femur, also known as the thick bone. Which animal is known as the king of the jungle? Lion. Name the national bird of India. The peacock. Which is the largest continent in the world? Asia. Which is the largest country in the world by area? Russia. Who is known as the father of the Indian Constitution? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Which is the national tree of India? Banyan tree. Easy general. Which is the largest freshwater lake in India? Ular Lake. Which is the largest ocean in the world? Pacific Ocean. Who is known as the father of nation? Mahatma Gandhi. Which countries are separated by the Radcliffe Line? India and Pakistan. Which is the largest plateau in the world? Tibetan Plateau. Which is the longest river in India? Ganga. Where does the Narmada river originate from? Amar Kantak. Who is the imaginary line that divides India into almost two parts known as Tropic of Cancer? Which is the longest river in the world? Nile. Which is the most common non-contagious disease in the world? Tooth decay. Which is the most sensitive organ in body? Skin. Which is the most widely spoken native and non-native language in the world? English. Which is the most widely spoken native language in the world? Mandarin Chinese. Which is the nearest star to the earth? Sun. Which is the principal source of energy for earth? The sun. Which is the capital of India? New Delhi. Which is the smallest bone in the human body? Stapes. R bone. Which is the national song of India? Vande Mataram. Name the national game of India. Hockey. Name the national reptile of India. King cobra. Which is the smallest continent in the world? Australia. Which is the tallest animal on the earth? Giraffe. Which is the tallest mountain in the world? Mount Everest. Which is the world's largest flower? Rafflesia arnoldii. Which language is used by the computer to process data? Binary language. Which month of the year has the least number of days? February. Which place is known as the roof of the world? Tibetan Plateau. Which planet is known as the red planet? Mars. Which planet is the coldest planet in our solar system? Uranus. Which river is called the sorrow of Bihar? The Kosi River. Which state has taken up Sanskrit as an official language? Uttarakhand. Which state is the biggest in the US? Alaska. Which was the first country to use paper money? China. Which is the popular name for the Indian islands on the Arabian Sea? Lakshadweep Island. Who discovered electricity? Benjamin Franklin. Which is the oldest mountain range of India? Aravalli Mountains. What does archipelago mean? Group of islands. Which pass links Srinagar to Leh? Zojila Pass. Where is Lake Loktak situated? Manipur. Who discovered penicillin in 1928? Alexander Fleming. Who discovered the theory of relativity? Albert Einstein. Who gave the slogan "Do or Die"? Mahatma Gandhi. Who invented the computer? Charles Babbage. Who invented the telephone? Alexander Graham Bell. Who is considered the founder of the Sikh religion? Guru Nanak. Who is the first woman to go to space? Valentina Tereshkova. Who is the founder of Microsoft? Bill Gates. Who is the inventor of radio? Guglielmo Marconi. Who is the inventor of the electric bulb? Thomas Edison. Who is the world's fastest land animal? Cheetah. Who is the world's largest land animal? Elephants. Who painted the Mona Lisa painting? Leonardo da Vinci. Who was India's longest serving Prime Minister? Jawaharlal Nehru. Who was known as the Indian Napoleon? Samudra Gupta. Who was the first American president? George Washington. Female governor of an Indian state? Sarojini Naidu. Who was the first Indian to go to space? Rakesh Sharma. Who was the first Indian to have won the Nobel Prize? Rabindranath Tagore. Which place receives the highest rainfall in the world? Mount Shinram. Which place never gets the vertical rays of the sun? Srinagar. Hello friends, best of luck all of you. Please subscribe the channel and like it.